Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, a show that endeavors to bring you some of the highlights from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, the wide world. And we really appreciate you joining us and supporting this show. And we do hear from a lot of our viewers, a lot of feedback. Some of it's a little rough, but a lot of it's very constructive, and we appreciate all of it. And we do check and try to bring you things that you're interested in on this program. And one of our huge offerings this week, of course, is my co-host with the most, the Croatian sensation himself, John Jurisic. And John, what a week.
What a week. It's like, what a day. Every day there's so much more news. And just so that I can be combative with you, actually, I don't appreciate all of the viewer mail. Some of it really sucks. But you know what? A lot of it I read. I read all of it. And I find some of it quite humorous. So keep on trucking. Oh, is that an issue? Oh my gosh. The Trucker Freedoms Convoy never stops. I thought that thing would end, because in fact, a lot of these mandates are being removed. Nonetheless, they're back protesting at the legislature. They're arriving from across the country, and they're calling, there's even a name to this now. They're calling this latest protest Bear Hug BC. Bear Hug BC. Oh boy, do I ever feel so good about that. That's worth an emoji. These truckers, they believe that they're the reason. They believe they're the reason mandate regulations are being scrapped in conservative-led Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario. Hey, that's pretty indulgent, don't you think? And they want NDP John Horgan government to get in line. Come on, Johnny. Come on, Johnny, let's go. But Dr. Bonnie Hendry and Adrian Dix are already moving in that direction. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness science and medicine are leading the way in BC. But, they're doing that even without the help of honking horns downtown.
John, I think you're absolutely right. BC is moving to finally relax some of these regulations and mandates. We're moving away from masks eventually. We're moving away from vaccine passports. We're doing it carefully. And I believe the BC public supports this tactic. People appreciate that we're not recklessly moving forward. Omicron was real. It's still real. People are still getting sick, but we have a 90% vaccine rate in BC. So people who are getting sick are not getting terribly sick for the most part. A few days, you're back in the saddle and things are okay. So yes, the mandates will soon be over, but I think people are largely responsive in a positive way to what the province is doing. So we really wanted to know what's on people's minds. And, it's not the pandemic anymore, John. Things have shifted dramatically. People are not talking about COVID. They're talking about what's going on in the Ukraine.
Robin, right? The empathy has shifted. Public opinion has shifted. So you truckers, as I said earlier, you keep trucking on. However, I personally was very inspired to see the hundreds of people out on Douglas Street. And people, when I say people, these are small kids, families, waving Ukrainian flags and banners. In fact, I think you have a little button there, and I'm very impressed. I need one too. Calling for peace in the Ukraine. Well done. We recently spoke to Victoria lawyer Stan Osobic, who flew to Ukraine last weekend. We're hoping that he made it. We're hoping that he's safe. And we're hoping that he comes back. He's risked his life on this personal mission. And Stan told us how much Canadian support of the Ukrainian cause has meant to him.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Canadian government, the Canadian people, the BC government, the politicians, the humanitarian personnel at various organizations for tremendous support. As I understand it, Canada has been a staunching supporter of Ukraine since its renewal of independence in 1991. I don't think we ever had a stronger advocate than Canada throughout. And I guess it's probably by a large measure due to the historical connections between Ukraine and Russia. We have a large community here that was helping to establish this country. Of course, all Ukrainians are extremely appreciative of the governmental support that Canada has been providing to date.
We appreciate the words from this very brave man. What a great example of courage in a difficult time, and we really hope that Stan's going to be safe. He's a father of 3. His family is in Victoria, waiting for his safe return. And, there's a lot of expats from around the world that are traveling to the Ukraine. I heard up to 30,000 to date have joined a foreign legion to fight for this cause. And it's a really brave thing to do. But boy, it's scary. And people here are worrying about what they can do to help. People can't go to the Ukraine for the most part. Any number of Ukrainians can't even go. It's not a simple thing to do, but people would still like to help. They'd make a contribution in any way they can. And one person who's landed on a great idea is Paul Barriscale, who is an Airbnb owner. He was talking about how this is a vehicle to get money directly into the hands of people in the Ukraine.
I saw an article today from the Toronto Star, and over 3,000 people across Canada have booked rooms or suites in Ukraine through Airbnb. And clearly the people who booked them don't plan to go there, but they booked them for 2 or 3 days. And if your Airbnb booking in Ukraine is approved, that money goes to the family. So yesterday, my wife and I, we did the very same thing. We have an Airbnb, and we also stay at Airbnbs. So we found a couple in a small city on the border of Ukraine and Russia, and that city's being bombarded by Russian missiles. And there's a couple there, Tatiana and her husband, and we booked their Airbnb for 2 days in March. So it got okayed, and so they already have the money. We don't plan on staying there. So this was a way for us in Victoria and Canadians to help people out in the Ukraine. It's a small gesture, but if everyone did that, it shows support from Canada for the people in the Ukraine that we love.
Great comments from Paul Barriscale. And we've had further comments from someone who actually was observing what Paul Barriscale had to say about Airbnbs and wrote us this comment. I checked Airbnb and found many are booked already. The key is to book one, which is tomorrow or next week. The sooner the date, the sooner they get the money. Reach out to the person first to let them know it's a donation. That way, you know they are still able to get online in order to receive the funds. So some very good advice there, but it's time to move on. John, there are other issues, and we're going to move on to one now. Things happening in the housing area and comments by View Royal's Mayor, David Screech.
Robin, even though I joke and I have sort of humorous context to many of my comments, there's huge comment, issue after issue after issue that are fundamental to our society, fundamental to our families, and housing is one of them. Affordable housing, something I've been involved with a long time. We had View Royal Mayor David Screech in the Rumble Room last week talking about walk-in clinics closing and the doctor shortage, yet another huge issue for families. And as we stated, he has other fish to fry. And I like that term. He has other fish to fry. Writing an opinion piece in the Times columnist this week, he says, while I share Housing Minister David Eby's deep concerns about the housing crisis, I'm far from convinced that we can build our way out of it. Mayor Screech says I am chilled by the minister's comments that the province will consider using its supremacy to force housing that elected council may oppose. Simply put, zoning and permitting are the jurisdiction of local government, not the province. The mayor also says that there's a local trust between council and their residents. He suggests it's heavy-handed to take away the opportunity to refine and improve proposed developments at the community level.
Well, that's certainly how one mayor feels in the Western communities, Southern Vancouver Island, and really good comments, really solid thoughts there. We decided we would canvass and find the comments of another neighboring mayor, and we asked the mayor of Langford what he thought about this same issue, and maybe not a surprise, it wasn't the same answer as we have from David Screech. Langford's Stu Young seems to feel that some municipalities could benefit from these changes where the province takes over more control or more overview of permits for housing, because some communities get off track and they start talking about things that really are no business of civic government to get into. Are you listening, City of Victoria? In other words, debate issues around civic matters, not whether or not the Crimea is part of the Ukraine. That's not how you spend taxpayers' dollars if you're a municipal politician.
Right.
You focus on the other stuff. So let's hear more about what Stu Young thinks on this issue. Now, joining us in the Victoria Rumble Room for the first time in 2022 is the mayor of Langford, Stu Young. Stu, great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, great to be here, guys. It's always good to have a chat with you guys and see what's happening everywhere around the Southern Vancouver Island, and you guys are doing a great job.
Appreciate that. Lots of stuff going on in Langford. You're now rated as the fastest growing community in British Columbia. A lot of new development going on. And in the middle of all this, we hear that Minister David Eby and the provincial government are talking about taking away some permit powers from municipalities to get more homes built. So what do you think of that?
I think it's about time. You know, I've been talking about that for years. Politicians get elected and then they forget actually what their role is. Their role is to make sure that people have a house over their head, they have a safe community, you need enough policing. But you hear all this stuff about the negative side of providing people housing and letting them build equity in a house, as politicians, because they get off track at the municipal level and they start doing other things that really don't matter as much as the affordable housing crisis we're in. And our jobs as politicians is to make sure we make it as easy as we can to get people into housing so they can build equity. Families desire to own a piece of property and to call, it a home, and they don't really want to rent. If they can afford to find a way to own a home, that's the desire. That's what people want. That's what this country was built on. Yeah. And so really, we need to make sure that our process as a municipal government is not full of red tape and bureaucracy and this rule and that rule and bylaws and stuff that everybody has to figure out before they can do anything. And time is money. And like anything, an investor in Langford comes in and wants to build a building. Well, he doesn't want to wait 3 or 4 years with all his money tied up. It just adds to the price of housing. So we try and do it as fast as we can because we know the faster our process is with less red tape. If the end result is to provide affordable housing in an affordable housing crisis, we're doing the right job. Yeah. And so you'll notice a lot of municipalities, they don't have any growth at all, and they don't really look at infill or anything else. And, really they're run by their neighborhood associations. They say, we got our house. We don't want any help anybody else. So we actually do need to help people. We need to help people.
I have a different take on this. And I'm going to ask you the question. First of all, thanks. Great to see you again in the Rumble Room. Is this, do you think, really being done for, to overcome some of the downtown big city housing issues rather than really for urban municipalities like yours, which seem to be solving the problem?
Well, everybody is elected in their municipality. They can do the same thing as me. As long as you look at it, if you got a crisis, figure out what that crisis is. Well, we're in an affordable housing crisis all across Canada. It's not just in my municipality. So you don't need to hire more staff. You already have staff. All you got to do is maybe do twice as much work as you're doing now. Instead of letting stuff sit around for 6 months a year before you make a decision, get it on the council agenda. Just ask your council to go yes or no. And yeah, you're going to have people in neighborhoods going, well, I don't want this. They've got their house. Just remember this, people that are comfortable, they've got their house. They've been very fortunate in life to have a house and to be able to raise your family. But to say, we're not going to accept anybody else into our community, we're good, we don't need to help anybody, and that's wrong. So politicians need to know that you got to look after families first. And if there's nowhere else for them to go that's affordable, then we have to step up. And Langford has stepped up. So we've recognized that it's supply and demand. This is the other problem. You can't tax your way out of a problem, and you can't, keep raising taxes just because, you don't have development. Development helps pay for your infrastructure, your schools, your recreation centers, all that sort of stuff. So as we develop in Langford, we also develop recreation centers and, things that you can do in nature, and we get parks. Where our biggest parks that we have in Langford came from a development. It's not from us going out and buying it. You can't even afford to go buy, an affordable lot now for a house in most areas. Well, how difficult it is to get 50 acres in the middle of your downtown core, or in that urban area, containment area. I actually appreciate that the government recognizes that municipalities have overstepped their bounds in a lot of areas. They should be looking after sewer, water, housing, all these things, on approvals. The municipalities don't have to go build the houses. They just have to approve them fast enough. So then you don't have to take the taxpayers' money that you're collecting and go use it to go build something to make it affordable. You get the development community to be your partner, and then they build parts of their development now will house affordable housing or have part of affordable housing. And that's what we do in Langford. So we do a bunch of that sort of stuff. We work with them. We have an affordable housing program that is funded by development. Our parks and recreation is funded by development. We're adding another, 4,000 seats to our stadium, funded by development.
What you're saying here is that the province is moving in a direction you approve of.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're also saying that Langford was already doing this. In other words, if other municipalities were doing what you're doing now, Mr. Eby wouldn't have to step in and say he's going to change the rules.
Right. So what happens, that's what I'm saying, municipalities have gone off track of what their responsibility is when they get elected. They get into all this social stuff that the province has ministries for. They do things that the provincial government is already doing. What they need to do is focus on what they're actually taxing. And we don't tax income. We tax houses. So there's the provincial government and federal government that tax income from businesses to do the other social programs and the other programs that are needed. What we can do is facilitate it, but we shouldn't be taxing houses in Langford or in any municipality over than the just basic rate of service that you're supposed to provide.
Mayor Stu Young certainly loves to stir the pot. That's what he does. That's his MO. He and his council, they've been very successful. There is evidence. There is strong evidence that they've had local success in development planning on the West Shore. And the mayor doesn't sound very threatened by the provincial government, does he? So we'll keep an eye on this issue.
We sure will, John. And these issues, they seem to go on and on. They have new legs. We try to get different voices on these same issues, and a lot of very strong personalities at the civic level in this city. We have 13 municipalities on the South Island representing Greater Victoria, a lot of very strong voices, very bright men and women who are leading our community. And they don't always agree, but we're always happy to get them on to talk about these issues. But now it's time to say goodbye to our Rumble Room family, John. And before we do, in your usual, inimitable, amusing, entertaining way, you could explain how people can follow us and like us and subscribe to the Rumble Room on all the many platforms where we are found.
That's such a great expectation. I don't know if I can meet it. But one thing about this that's consistent is we really thank the viewers. We thank everyone who is subscribing, everyone who is liking, everyone who is sharing. We do appreciate that. It means that all of this fun that we're having is being shared by other folks. So think about that as you see Facebook link come up, as you see our Twitter link come up, and as you see our YouTube site where all of these videos of ours and clips are housed. And then, of course, we have a website, which is a podcast site. There's an entire world of podcasting that we do follow and try to take advantage of. And then inevitably have so much fun with our Instagram and TikTok sites. And that's where a lot of our viewer mail comes into play. So with all that being said, I continue to remain John Jurisic for all of the 49 years that I've been on this earth. A great friend. I am a great friend of obviously my family back in Eastern Europe. I have emotional attachments to the Ukraine and the Balkan community, best wishes to the Ukrainian people, especially the brave Ukrainians who are being attacked by these Russians. Remain brave and resolute. I am John Jurisic, and I salute you.
As do I, and I'm Robin Adair. And rumble on!